of owning a cafe and other heroic deeds by Beware the Tristero. Chapter 105. Saturday. Part 9. Todoroki Shouta wasn't someone who found himself surprised very often. Midoriya, us talking just now, it doesn't change anything. About our match, I mean. Well, of course it doesn't, Shouta-kun. I want to fight you at your best. I'd be offended otherwise. Not that you could offend me or anything. I'm just, really super excited to see what you can do, you know? Blinking at the emerald haired boy, whose smile was like the sun. It was blinding! In a good way. He felt his brows reach for his hairline. Really? Yeah! The freckled child chuckled. How can I develop my skills, get stronger, and improve if I don't get to test what I know against someone at a higher level than me, ne? Nodding, Shouta then found a hand be extended to him as they stood together amidst the League of Cafe and Junior Division and the now settling groups of competitors. The 10-minute break was nearly at its end. I'd like us to shake on it now, you know? It's a promise between friends. A promise that we'll both do our best with, no hard feelings. The other told him, the smile he wore somehow more radiant. But it's totally fine if you don't want to. He was holding that offered hand. He was holding it gently, his eyes widening. What was he doing? Endeavor wouldn't approve, but... Oh, that's great. Thank you, Shouta-kun, and good luck out there. Endeavor? I wasn't here, was he? Managing to nod, the other boy then pulled away, gave him a wave, and walked back to where their sensei was stood with his friends. They were all happy. The man was greeting all of them in turn, his lips pulled into a small endearing smile as he spoke to them, allowed them to tug and pull at his hands, his gi-covered legs. Shoni didn't seem annoyed by them or their loudness at all. That sure was something, wasn't it? Blinking out of his observations, his chest tightening a little, Shoto turned to find Natsuo stood to his left, the dark gray-green eyes he'd inherited from their mother also tracking the children who, in just over 5 minutes, had made more fuss of them than their nannies had in years. Yeah, he admitted quietly, his arms folding tightly across, his tone a little bitter. It's a shame that it's over. Rappa Kendo was bored. No, scratch that. He was would slam his head into a brick wall just for something to do, out of his goddamn mind, bored. So bored was he, in fact, that since he couldn't shit-talk any of the preening adults flouncing around the main dojo into a spar, or even a fucking arm wrestle, what a bunch of fucking posers. He rolled his shoulders, rolled his eyes, and stomped off to find some entertainment elsewhere. He'd only come here to see if Todoroki was the hot shit he'd been made out to be. Plus, since everything on the Yakuza side of things was a little dull right now, he needed something to do. So, why not broaden his skills? Why not beat a couple of people bloody? Why not get the old adrenaline pumping? Fuck, if he'd have known that he'd have to wait until the afternoon to get his fist-busting quota in, then he would have gone down to the seedy docks in the backwaters of Musutabu to challenge those cocky sailor boys who popped up every so often from overseas instead. He'd gotten into an excellent rumble with 17 Spaniards a few months ago, hadn't he? He could still smell the blood in his nose and feel the tingling in his fists. Good times! However, that kind of frivolity wouldn't happen in a swanky joint like this, and so his primary goal was to talent spot. For if he could find some interesting opponents today, then he could initiate other fights later. He could entice them into brawls, get a feel for their strengths and weaknesses, and then add them to Jisaki's shit list. Grinning, he stretched a little and cracked his neck as loudly as he could, the sound of it reverberating around the mostly empty corridor he was walking down. Now then, where should he go to waste some time? The teenagers were probably pretty good, but fighting kids was a waste of his time. Plus, grown men challenging kids, even able ones, to fights would bring a lot of unwanted attention, wouldn't it? Maybe he should head to the junior area. Todoroki had kids, didn't he? Not that they were in the public much, but the gossip rags needed their fodder, didn't they? It's what smug pricks like him deserved for standing out so much, he supposed. That, and, well, even though Stetsuno had found the guy's house, they really didn't know much. The place had looked like a fucking museum, for God's sake. What was the point of having all that cash when you did fuck all with it? Grumbling to himself, his massive arms crossing, he didn't even bother glaring at the officials trying to skirt past his bulky form as he ambled towards Dojo 3, his mood souring once more. Ugh! Kids! Who'd have them? Snotty noses, whiny attitudes, high-pitched voices, fragile bones. Chisaki had better fucking thank him properly for doing some reconnaissance on his behalf at a kiddie event. However, money was money, and his boss treated them all with respect and could walk the talk he liked to boast about, and so with a dejected sigh, he settled in to the nearest tiered seating and tried to keep his eyes open. Premium protein bars and shakes, yeah, that's what he'd asked for after getting the dirt on Endeavor's little snats. Regarding the matchups with his usual candor, Shouta married up what he'd seen of the other fighters against his kids. Oh, Mezzo! I can't wait to go head to head with you, man! I bet your legs are just as wicked strong as your arms, right? Some of them were going up against each other. However, they sparred together every Sunday and on a few afternoons when the feeling took them, so he wasn't worried. Their friendships were solid. Their bonds ran much deeper than something a tournament could ever hope to dismantle.
Woo! Ochako versus Kacchan? That's gonna be one heck of a match.
Also, it'd do them good to face each other in an official setting. They'd have to do such things when they went to UA, after all. Whoa, Muriel-senpai! That guy over there is huge! You're gonna have to evade him until he gets to time to fight you or something! God, how were they 8, 9, and 11 already? It wouldn't be long before they'd hit middle school, and then when they turned 15,
he'd be 30.
They'd be off to the dormitories at Nezu's pride and joy, and going on to become heroes, wouldn't they? The time they had from here to then was beyond precious, wasn't it?
Combatants of round 1, take your positions, please.
Sighing, Shouta ushered the children to the little area they'd staked out for themselves before casting an eye to the officiates. Just as he thought he would be needed this time around to reverie. He wanted to watch his students, too. Careful, Aizawa, he heard a little voice whisper in the back of his head. You're showing bias. Chasing the thought away, he nodded at the overseer before looking down at the tots. Good luck, everyone, he told him, his smile fond. Remember, I
think you're all winners anyway. Thanks, Johnny. We love you too.
The children he'd come to adore so much finished for him, their smiles wide as they rushed his legs for a hug before the kids who were fighting next dispersed. Blinking, he shared a look with Hitoshi and Tamaki, the bear grinning at him as if to say, well, what did you expect? Before he let a little chuckle, shook his head ruefully, and made his way to Area 7, where 2 children he didn't know were standing across from each other. At least Toshinori Tadeo and Koji-san would be videoing everything for him to watch later, weren't they? Passing his partner a fresh glass of their famous lemonade, Tomura blinked when the flame quirk user took a sip, placed it onto the floor, and patted the seat next to him as his sister looked on. Ingo had taken Rei out for some air with Mimi-chan and the girls. This was a little overwhelming, wasn't it? Yumi? His lover said as he sat, his form a little tense, a little nervous. He told Dabi that he was fine to stay on the sidelines with Spinner because, well, this was a big day. A day that felt at times they'd never reach. He'd seen his partner become more pent up with worry on the approach, and although the taller man was always quick to reach for him, to include him, to love him, he didn't want to intrude. This was his precious family time, wasn't it, This is Aizawa Tomura. He's ridiculous smart, charming, gorgeous, and the man I want to marry someday. Wait! Not right now, of course. Dad probably wouldn't enjoy being upstaged, and we're probably a little too young to plan something on that scale just yet, but when you look at him, I'm not expecting anything right away, because we all need to, get to know each other again, but I want you to see another older brother, and a person I love just as much as you and the others. Just just in a different way. What? We won't even need to have a change in names when we tell them that either. Well, if he'll have me.
You idiot!
He managed his face flaming whilst the 14-year-old on the other side of his lover, the love of his life, covered a giggle with her hand, those beautiful eyes sparkling in them. God!
Of course I'll marry you.
He grumped his shoulder, giving the chuckling, deviously smirking menace a nudge that had Fuyumi giggling louder.
Summer and Nissan, I think you're really cute together.
She offered kindly, a tentative hand reaching across her brother for one of his gloved ones. Thank you, she said, both of them blinking at her, whilst he allowed those pale, cool, delicate fingers to grasp his gloved ones. Thank you for loving him so much. You can't know what that means to me, really. He tried in his way to be there for Natsuo and me. He tried even harder to stop Chichue from hurting Shoto too much, and I'm just so glad and grateful to know that he has you, that you've been there for him. She furthered her smile a little wobbly. Oh God, his eyes are tearing up.
Yumi.
He tried his body, leaning quite heavily upon his fondly smiling lover.
He saved me too, you know.